Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Tokyo Tropic Turtles Draft to Glory franchise mode here in MLB The Show 24. So in last episode, we started up the year 14 season, if I'm not mistaken, and so far we are 47 and 35, so doing relatively well. Not as good as the last 2 years, I would say, but definitely still on a playoff pace, which is great. There has been some underlying problems, but I'm still excited to see what this team ends up doing this season. And I'm hoping that obviously once we get to the playoffs that we could actually have a good run. Because at the moment we are currently, as of the standings, we are currently the wild card team that is in the playoffs, which is interesting. So we just got to hold on to that wild card spot, and anything could really happen once we get into the postseason. I have seen wild card teams go on to win the World Series before, so I'm hoping that's technically the case with our team, is maybe we'll be actually a really good playoff team, even though we are a wild card one. So because we are kind of a little bit far back of the Astros at the moment, who currently are leading AL West. I'm hoping the Astros aren't really good again this year, because obviously last year they took us out. So obviously I'm hoping that we could kind of be the underdogs, and if they do make the playoffs as well, that we could actually beat them if we do have to face them at some point. So hoping for a good playoff run ahead. Also hoping we have a good draft ahead, just in case for some reason we start to lose more games, we don't make the playoffs, or if we do make the playoffs, obviously hopefully we do have most of these guys coming back next season. There is a bit of a risk with our contract situation at the moment, if we go to our budget, that a lot of these guys might end up be testing free agency, which is kind of scary. Also, like guys like Parker Iwamura, their contract ends in the next few years. So this might be one of our best chances to win right now, because or else we're going to start to lose guys more from a roster list like we did in the offseason in the last episode, or 2 episodes ago, whatever it was. So I am a little bit scared that we might start to lose players on our roster more frequently, which is also going to make us a worse team. So that's why we need to have a good draft ahead. That way we could replace some of these guys that are on our roster at the moment very easily. Like Vincent Seo's a pending free agent. Who knows how much he's going to ask for this offseason. Same with guys like Eric Yamamoto. There's also Philip Chung. So I just want to make sure that we maintain our roster as much as possible for next season, if obviously we can. If we can't for some reason, hopefully we draft some prospects that at least could replace those guys in hopefully relatively quick fashion. So going to be interesting to see what happens in this episode in terms of the draft, and also simulating more of the season and seeing if this team can maintain its form. Like I said, we should be easily going to be a playoff team, but we got to worry about some teams like the Rangers, for instance, who are right behind us in AL West. There was a lot of other teams that are currently trying to fight for that wild card spot, as you can see. So there's Texas, there's the Blue Jays we got to worry about, the Angels, and the Twins. The Red Sox are 500 at the moment, but everybody else is below 500. So I would say probably we need to worry about most of those teams, but I think we definitely should be a playoff team, because we are the best defensive team almost in the entire league, which is great. So hopefully we continue to have a good rest of the season, and hopefully a good draft class ahead. But anyways, let's get in your guys' comments now and see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we will start scouting out a little bit more for the next week or so, and then it will be the year 14 draft, which hopefully we could pick up some really good players. So the first comment is from Nick Bacabaron's OC, who says, draft doesn't look that bad to me, and it's kind of a mixed bag of a draft. I wouldn't say it's a terrible draft by any stretch, but it's more because after basically the top guys like this David Chu guy who we were scouting out, all that type of thing, there seems to be a pretty big gap after, I believe it was, who was it that was the last best guy listed? After Theodore Bayek, I think there was a giant gap before the next best player, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think it was after him. So basically, that's why I think it's not that great of a draft class. But we might have some good players in it, like Luther Chang could end up being a decent steal, that type of thing. But it's still a little bit of a weaker draft class in the sense that we might not be able to get all these players because we are drafting quite late in the first round. So I think that might hurt us a little bit in terms of finding ourselves good prospects. But I'm hoping that obviously we could find some decent ones, because last year's draft, even though we were drafting as late as possible, we were able to still draft actually relatively well. So hopefully we could do that again this season. And the last and final comment is from Ryan Sharkey, who says, make Oka and Taguchi swap depending on if the pitcher is righty or lefty, or let Taguchi take over completely. A. Bayek is also not out of the question for that spot as well. And yeah, that's true. William A. Bayek could come up at some point. He is a high overall, which would be good. If we look at the stats right now, I did put Oka in against righties, and I put Taguchi in against lefties. Right now, you look at stats like Taguchi, you can see he's actually better against right-handed pitchers. Oka is also better against right-handed pitchers in terms of contact. So I think it might be Oka's spot to lose potentially, even though he was really good for us last season. So he is going to be against righties, and then Takuchi will be against lefties. However, like you did say, Abai could come up and play in those spots as well. If we look at his stats, he's pretty much better against righties as well. So I'm not too exactly sure who we would want to run in that spot full time. Obviously, I think Abai will be back up here next season if he's not already. He'll probably get one of the September call-ups just to make us better in depth. But I don't really know who would be the player that is going to be not the shortstop of the future. Right now, seems like Taguchi is definitely the best of the options. However, he was only at 8 at-bats. Like, he was a bench bat. So who knows how he's going to play when he actually is in the lineup full-time. And then Oka was batting 251, which isn't egregiously bad, but it's actually kind of just more average than anything. And I don't really think Abayek's going to do that because last year he had a really bad batting average, but honestly, it depends, I guess, on how these guys start developing and how they play the next few years. But all of them are good against righties, but not so much against lefties, which is kind of problematic in a way. But anyways, those are the comments we got in last episode. So let's go to scouting here and add some prospects for the final week of scouting. I guess we could just put the guys that we want to get the most. So guys like David Chu. We'll probably add some of those guys to here so that way we get their interest higher as possible, so that way they'd likely sign with us. There is a chance that some of these guys go even earlier than our picks, but obviously we will add them there just in case. I think that's probably what we want to do for this last week. I think there was another guy I didn't scout out, though, that I remember seeing at the end of the last episode. Let me just double check that there wasn't anybody that I wanted to definitely scout out that we haven't scouted out so far, because I feel like there was some, but I don't know. Not Elmo Tanaka, not Nelson Hong. Wasn't there another left fielder, or am I just mistaken? I feel like there was other people, too. Just going to double check. Willard Lee. He doesn't really look that bad. Or great, to be honest. He's a center fielder. He's probably not going to be much of anything. So now we're scouting out him for this final week. Let's see about right fielders. See if there's anybody good on it. Nobody there. Okay, let's go to, let's go to catchers, see if there's any catchers, and we'll keep just going through this just to see if there's anybody I want to definitely scout out. There is Henry Taguchi as a catcher, who might have a high potential, but based on his numbers, I don't think he's actually going to be that good, so I don't really know if I would scout him out right now. So I probably will just leave it. First base, is there anybody here? Maybe Henry Taguchi was the guy I was looking at the last part of the episode. And the last episode, if I remember right, I honestly don't remember. Okay, so there doesn't seem to be any first baseman. Second base. Gotta just double check and make sure we're doing our due diligence on all these prospects if possible. Third base. Morai was not fully scouted yet. He's not looking still the greatest. I'll keep him at that in terms of scouted. What about shortstops? Not that we really need more shortstops, but you never know. Nobody there. Left fielders and stuff we already looked at. Okay, so we'll get these guys scouted out more so that way they get their interest higher and higher for the actual draft itself. So let's continue to simulate and see how this team does. Hopefully we could have a good stretch here. We have 3 more games to end off the month. So 1 more against Washington, which the series is 1-1 right now, and 2 against Boston. Let's see how we do in these 3 games. Takahashi's not in the MLB. Okay, we win 2 and lose 1. That's okay. Still a little bit inconsistent as of the last little bit, but our last win was a nice 8-1 win, which is nice. So we got 2 more against Boston and 2 against Cleveland, and then that should be pretty much close to the draft if I'm mistaken. Okay, so we won the series against Boston 2-1. That's good. 50-37. Now we got 2 games against the Guardians, who are actually a pretty good team right now. They're 51-37, so pretty similar record to us. So this is a good matchup right here. Yamaguchi is an MLB. Kazuhito Hayashi has some shoulder soreness. That's not great. He's only out for a few days, but that's still a pretty big loss in terms of he's actually going to start some games. Okay, we lost 1 and 1-1. That's fine. 51-38. Looks like we actually do have 1 more week, I think, of scouting before the actual draft, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll keep those guys on there for now. Still kind of a little bit inconsistent. Like in the first episode of the season simulation, or actually that was part of the off-season episode, we actually started off the season very good. But since then, it's been kind of a little bit more inconsistent, like where we have some good weeks, some bad weeks. So We just need to find that consistency in our game. But we're 51-38, so we're only 2 games back currently of the Astros for first place in the AL West. So we're still doing relatively well, all things considered. Let's go through this game against the Guardians, and that's a sweep. Or not a sweep, but a nice shutout. That's what I meant to say. But we do take them in 3 games, which is pretty good considering they're one of the better teams in the league. Now we're going up against Philadelphia, who's one of the worst teams in the league probably. They're 37-53. So this should be a sweep, hypothetically, but it probably won't be. And it won't be. But we do take 2 of the 3 games, only giving up 2 runs in those games, but the 1 loss, we gave up 7, so a little bit inconsistent still at this point in time. We got 2 more games to go before the draft, those both against the Angels, who are more around 500. Can we win them both? We win the first one, and we won't find out about the second one probably until the actual draft itself. Let's go auto fix lineups, I guess. Let's just go okay on that for now, because we should be at the draft almost. Let me just make sure double A is addressed, I guess, because that's what it was saying. So we need to have a, what is it? We need to have a, what do we need in this spot? A center fielder? No, we got it already. A DH, I guess. We'll just put in Hitoki Yamaguchi. No, it's a catcher we need. That's what we need. That is what we need. It is a catcher. Boom. That is good to go. And, yeah, that's a good, really good week for the team. Only losing 1 game. Well, I mean, actually, there's still 1 more game this week, technically. But the draft is 1 day ahead. So we'll just go to this. And there you go. Boom. Draft is ready to go. So let's add our prospects to our list, and hopefully some of them fall to us at 26. I don't know for sure how far some of these guys are going to go, but I hope that we can get ourselves some relatively good steals here. Where's the guy that was supposed to go in between those 2? Maybe he's supposed to go later than that, actually. Because originally he was supposed to go earlier. But let's just get every Asian added to this. That way we have our list of what people we could go for. Where are the rest of these dudes? There's another one. I feel like one of them might have withdrawn from the draft class because I thought he would have been earlier. That was one of the guys we had pinned to. What do we got? Walter Lee. Oh, Walter Lee was the one, I think. He actually fell back a little bit. But hopefully he's a decent player. He wasn't supposed to get drafted. We might draft him even though we don't need relievers that much. But we'll see what ends up being around our spot, because some of these guys could go earlier, depending if other teams have discovered them or not. Alright, so almost near the end of the list already. We do not have a lot of prospects on our short list, which is not great, but we just got to hope that we get the chance to draft most of the guys we want. So we'll add Taguchi, even though we didn't scout him out at all, as another option. And that should be it, I think. Yep, that is it. Let me just double check, make sure there was nobody else here earlier on that I missed. No, okay. So we got a total of 3, 6, 7. I feel like I'm probably missing somebody, but this is our short list. So let's get to the draft and see what we end up getting. We're not drafting until 26, but we'll definitely take a look at what day I draft before our pick, just in case. So the Braves have the first pick, followed by the Pirates, the Reds, the Nationals, and then Kansas City. All right, let's start up the draft and see what ends up going before our selection. Hopefully we get that shortstop we want, because he's definitely the best in terms of potential, it seems like. So the first overall pick is a center fielder, Jose Magana, going to the Braves. That's the first time I think I've seen a center fielder go first overall, so it'll be interesting to see how good that guy actually is. At number 2, the Pirates are going to get Ray Clark, who's a third baseman. Looks like he could be a very high overall and high potential type of guy, or he could not be, who knows. So there's a third baseman going off the board, and at 3, let's see what goes. It's going to be Ken Mendez, the first starting pitcher to go. That could end up being the best player, who knows. Because sometimes I feel like the pitchers are usually the better players to take in the first round, but honestly, we don't know. Nationals at 4, whether they're going to select... Are they going to select another pitcher? Because usually it's a lot of pitchers first round. Johnny Gonzalez, the first catcher off the draft class, okay? Royals at 5, what are they going to select? Ian Dixon, a first baseman. So far, a player of each different position. No double up positions so far in this first round. 6th overall, the White Sox are going to select the second first baseman. It is Theodore Byatt going early. That's unfortunate. I was hoping he'd be one of the guys to fall to us. But he goes at 6th overall. Damn, that's pretty crazy. So Theodore Bayek on his way to the White Sox. Hopefully he's not very good. That leaves us with only 6 players left we could take in this draft. So we got to be very hopeful that the AI doesn't decide to go for some Asians as well. But I wasn't expecting Theodore Bayek to go that early. He was ranked at number 5. So between 5 and 24 he was going to go. So after Chris Wolf and Christopher Pruitt, Juan German, something like that, going to the Padres. Josh Bennett going to the Detroit Tigers, starting pitcher. He is supposed to go 6th overall based on MLB and currently our scouts as well. John Corley, the first shortstop of the draft, going off the board at 11th overall. Okay, Giants at 12 take Chuck Cobain, who's another starting pitcher, so there's a lot of starting pitchers as of late. Makes sense. Phillies at 13, who are having a really rough year this season. Take Esteban Tejeda, who's a shortstop. He's supposed to go late first round to early second round based on those numbers. Chris Huffco is the right fielder. That's the first right fielder of the draft class so far. But there has been some center fielders before this. Tampa at 15 is going to select Michael Bernstein, who's a left fielder. So there's the first left fielder. Angels now, who are in our division, hopefully they don't make a good selection here. They take Elmo Graves, who's a third baseman. Interesting name. I didn't know Sesame Street was in the grave, but apparently it is. The Minnesota Twins are going to take Tony James, who's a left fielder. So a couple outfielders as of the last few picks. The Marlins at 18. They are going to select Bobby Carpenter, who's a third baseman. Bobby Carpenter. Toronto at 19. Who are they going to select? And it's Texas and Milwaukee. Toronto selects James Stark, who's a short starting pitcher as well. Could be a high overall, could be a low overall. It's a wide range with him. Texas, I didn't even realize this guy was in the draft. Texas selects Rick Ricks. Holy crap, another meme player. Well, I didn't expect us to see another meme player like that. So that's almost like the Lewis and the Louise. It's Rick Ricks. Brett McClellan going to the Brewers as a starting pitcher. Simon Meadows going to the Diamondbacks. But yeah, shout out to Rick Ricks. I just love these names sometimes. 23rd, the Mets are going to select Brandon Delgadio, who's another starting pitcher. Currently injured according to the doctor's exam. Guardians, this is the Guardians, right? Yeah, Guardians take Charlton Anderson, who's a second baseman. That might be the first second baseman of this first round. I think it is. Interesting. Cubs at 25 to select Johnny Martinez, which means David Chu is still on the board, and I think he's got to be our first round pick here. Yeah, according to our scouts, his potential should be at least an A potential, like a B to A potential player. He's going to have a good starting overall potentially too. He's only 18. Yeah, we definitely got to select David Chu here as our shortstop. Hopefully he's very good against left-handed pitchers, because that would be nice. But it looks like he's more of a defensive shortstop, which would help us out defensively. So David Chu is going to be our selection at 26. Is that going to be the big steal of the draft class? Hopefully it is. The MLB had him ranked at 88, but originally I think he was rated NR, if I'm not mistaken. So that could end up being one of the best steals we've had in the series, depending on if the game wants to give us a good steal or not. Okay, this final few picks of the first round. So the Cardinals are on the clock at 27. They are going to select Gabriel Cortez, starting pitcher. He was supposed to maybe go in the second round. Houston at 28. Hopefully they don't get a good player here, because screw the Astros for knocking us out last year. They take Rich Veach, center fielder. Hopefully Rich Veach isn't too good. Boston at 29 is going to select Peter Kincaid, second baseman. And the final pick of the first round, the Dodgers are on the clock. Who are they going to select with this pick? They are going to select Ricky Paulson, who's a starting pitcher. All right. So that's the first round of the draft class. So let's simulate to our next pick and hope that all 5 of these guys are still on the board if possible. And I think they all still are. Yep, they all still are. That's good. Okay, so I guess we'll go probably Luther Chang here. Yeah, I think Luther Chang's what I'm leaning towards here. Like, Walter Lee's going to be good, but I could probably take a reliever next round. Luther Chang's also more defensively oriented, but has a little power to his game. Doesn't have a high interest, so I'm hoping that we could get that interest higher. Yeah, we're going to take Luther Chang here with this next selection. And that way we have more outfielding help because that's something that we don't have a ton of. Now we got to hope that Walter Lee's on the board next because I don't think I want to take Nelson Hong next round, but might have to happen. So let's select to our next pick. Walter Lee's still on the board. Okay, good. Patrick Rock goes to the Cincinnati Reds, just in case you guys wanted to know where Patrick Rock went. So we'll take Walter Lee probably with our next selection here as a reliever because he looks like he could be decent even though he's 21 already. Hopefully he's good. That would be our second player named Walter Lee, I think, on this team too. So we might have to change that guy to Walter B. Lee and the other one to Walter A. Lee, if I'm not mistaken. Let's select to our next pick here and see if Nelson Hong is still on the board, which he is. That's good. So we'll probably go for Nelson Hong here because even though he might be a D potential guy, he could also be like a high overall and like C potential, which wouldn't be too bad. Also good contact hitter. So Nelson Hong is also going to join a team in the outfield. So welcome aboard to Nelson Hong. Hopefully he's not a D potential. And then we have two more guys that are still both on the board. Alan Morai and Henry Taguchi. We'll go with Alan Morai here. Give ourselves another third baseman. Might as well. And then hopefully Taguchi is there available next round, which he is. We are going to probably have to take somebody completely off the board here that we aren't going to be able to sign, but that's okay. We'll take Taguchi here. You know, we didn't scout him out at all, so that could be a terrible pick right there. And our last pick, is there any Asians that I just didn't realize here? Let's see. Just got to double check and make sure we got everybody that we can actually possibly get. You're not from Asia, right? No, we got to double check. Yeah, there's nobody I could take here. So we are just going to have to auto-sim the rest of this. And we will not be able to sign this last guy, which was Sean Rodriguez. And it said something about Alan Morai, which I don't really know what that said. But I think it was something to do with his injuries. Hopefully it didn't say I can't sign him, because that would be annoying. Alright, so we got to advance another day. And we should be able to start signing these prospects relatively soon. However, the All-Star break is upon us, as we just won 2-0. That's good. Home Run Derby. We might actually have some Home Run Derby contestants this year because Charles Nomo and also Yamazaki might be in it. Yep, they both are. That's what I thought. 26 home runs for Nomo. He's actually maybe leading the AL, which is awesome. So he's going to be in the Home Run Derby this year. Peter Yamazaki is as well. He currently has 23 home runs. So kind of nice to have two guys in the top 8 in terms of home runs across the entire league. So very good. I wish I could take a look and watch that, but at the same time, I know it takes forever, so let's skip through this. I don't know if it'll tell us if one of them wins the Home Run Derby or not. I don't think it does. Let me just go to our lineup here. Does it mention if any of them won the Home Run Derby? I don't think so. I feel like they probably should put that, though. No, it does not. Okay. Well, both of them are going to be at the All-Star game, it seems like, this year. Let's take a look at what All-Star representatives we have other than those two, because both those guys are likely in if they were at the Home Run Derby. Do we have any pitchers representing us? Yes, we do. Parker Iwamura has made the All-Star game. That's really great to see as the number 2 pitcher, as the top right-hander. So he's made it. And then nobody else in terms of pitching. And then we also have, obviously, Peter Yamazaki making it as a catcher. Nomo is probably going to have to play the bench because he's still listed as a catcher, I guess. Yeah. If we had him move to third base full-time as an actual third baseman, he'd probably be a starter. But he's going to be a bench bat at the All-Star game, which is unfortunate. But yeah, those are our representatives at the All-Star game this season. So 3 representatives. I like it. I like it a lot. Alright, let's see if we end up winning the All-Star game. And no, the NL has beaten the AL. So unfortunately, we lost the All-Star game, which means we probably do not have the All-Star MVP, my guess. Let me just check on this here. No. That was only Parker's second All-Star game. That's kind of crazy. And no thing. That was Yamazaki's first All-Star game. That's actually relatively insane, because I feel like he should have probably made it before this. And that was the third of Nomo's career. Alright. Alright, so we should be able to start signing our prospects maybe at the end of this week. I can't remember exactly. Yeah, I think it's probably at the end of this week. We got games in Houston now, so this is going to be a pretty big matchup. We've won a total of 4 games in a row, and we've been on a really good stretch as of late. Let's see, this first game, we'd lose that first one only by 1. And now we can start signing our prospects. All right, so we're going to start with David Chu. He's going to take a lot of our bonus allotment money, which kind of sucks, I think. And he already accepts. Wow, that's good. That's good. We cannot sign Sean Rodriguez, of course, because that's the one guy we can't sign. Let's just get Luther Chang a high interest. Let's try and sign Walter Lee already. And he's also going to join us already. Perfect. Nelson Hong has 50%, so I might be able to sign him too. Yes, I can. Wow. Well, we're making some short work of these contracts, and yeah, Morai is currently injured. I don't know how long his injury is, but he's probably not looking super good. But that's okay. We'll still sign him because we do need third base prospects. So, and then Taguchi needs interest as well. So both those guys need interest, but we are very close to signing all our prospects already, which is pretty damn nice. Okay, let's go through this first game against Houston. There's a nice win over them. And the last game against them in the series is also a win, 13-3. So we do pretty good against our rivals in Houston. We're now 59-40. We are actually leading the AL West. So we've done a really good stretch as of late, which is very promising for the rest of the regular season. So those guys still need to be scouted out longer, or they need their interest higher, I should say, basically. Now let's go through these two games against Texas. We lose the first one. And we win the second one 3-0. Nice. All right. 60-41. We're pretty similar to what we've been in the last few years in terms of record, which is also good. Means we haven't fallen off too hard. And so far, both these guys are looking good so far, which is good. Luther Chang is obviously 100% scouted, though. Taguchi still has to get fully scouted, so we don't even know still how good this guy's actually going to be. Like, is he going to be a surprisingly good player, or is he going to be really bad? And we win that game, too. Nice. 61-41. Our team's definitely on a good stretch here. We're now 3 games up on the Astros, which is impressive. Okay, Luther, let's get you to sign. He declines the first initial offers. That's okay. We will definitely still be able to get him easily, I think. Let's go through these 2 games against San Francisco. We lose those 2 against San Fran. They're actually not even a good team, so that's not ideal. Let's try and get Luther to accept here. There you go. He accepts, which means now we just got to get Henry Taguchi to get his interest up there. His potential actually could be good. Like right now, his potential range is 73-99. And his overall range is 34-60. Like he could end up being maybe really actually not that bad. But I don't think he's going to be super good. I feel like he's just going to drop off out of nowhere. Wow, we actually got swept by San Francisco, but then we win the first one against the Cubs. That's okay. We're only 1 game up now on the Astros. Let's try and get Taguchi to sign here. And he accepts. Okay, perfect. So we got everybody signed with 4 days left, so that's good. Okay, let's go through these 2 games against Chicago. And we win both those. Perfect. We actually swept them, which is nice. And we should be able to find out our draft prospects after the next game, I believe. We take the last one against Baltimore as well. 65-44. And yeah, we do still have to go 1 more day here before we take a look at our prospects. Game against Baltimore here is another win, 66-44 on the season. We're now back up to 600 win percentage. We're still playing good, which is really great to see. So we'll definitely take a look at some player stats and stuff like that in a bit. But the question is now, how good was our draft for drafting as late as we were? Did we find a huge steal with David Chu? Or was he just an average player? Yay, A potential. I will definitely take an A potential player that late. He's got only 59 overall at 18, but that's actually not that bad to start. Very solid defensive stats, not so much on the contact department, but I think he could definitely help us become a better defensive team, which is sometimes an issue. He could also play second and third base, so that's actually a pretty good steal for where we were drafting. I would say that's definitely a home run of a pick for the first selection. Now, from here on out, though, I honestly have no idea how good these picks are going to be, but our second pick, Luther Chang, actually, that's not that bad. His C potential is kind of lower than expected, but 61 at 18 is a good starting point. He could also play any outfielding position, which is something we actually do need too, so I don't mind that. His power is definitely a little bit better than his contact, but it's not outrageously good, but obviously we could develop him into kind of like a power-hitting outfielder if we want, so I do not mind that selection either. I would say that one's kind of a bit more of a mid-selection, but since he's got a good starting overall, I think that's definitely a good spot for Luther Chang. Our next selection, Walter Lee, kind of the same boat, but he's a 58 at 21, which is kind of low. C potential is not bad. But yeah, he could end up being maybe a solid relief pitcher if we even see his career pan out. Who knows? He's got good velocity, good break. His Ks per nine are solid. His home runs per nine are solid. Hits per nine maybe a little bit low, but his walks per nine is definitely his weakness right now. So still looks like an okay reliever for the future, so I don't mind that. Our next selection, Nelson Hong, is fantastic. Wow, that's exactly what I wanted to see with Nelson Hong. Great contact hitting against righties, good power against righties. Vision is not the best, so that could probably go up, but his discipline's good. So he might be able to issue a lot of walks. He's got a great starting overall for an 18-year-old, 74 at 18, and he's got C potential. So this guy should be able to outgrow his potential, my guess, based on his contact and his power. But he's very close to jumping right to our MLB team, which is huge, especially if we lose somebody like Vincent Seo this offseason. He could directly replace Vincent Seo and be not that bad, I feel like, at the major league level. So that's a really nice pick at that spot. Alan Morai is pretty trash. That might be one of our worst selections of this entire series. 49 at 19 is a low overall and has D potential. And he's also was injured at the moment, so not the best. Does give us more third base depth, which is good, but he's not going to become much of anything at that. Henry Taguchi, B potential. For that late of a pick and somebody we didn't scout out, that's what I'll definitely take. 50 at 18 is a kind of a bit low, but he does have the potential to becoming one of our catchers of the future if we lost like Yamazaki, Nomo, those type of players. But I don't mind that selection with Henry Taguchi. That's not bad. So all in all, I would say that's actually not that bad of a draft. I would say that's probably one of our better drafts still too. Alan Morai definitely is terrible by comparison to everybody else, but David Chu's got 91 potential, which is pretty damn good for a shortstop. Chang's got 77 potential. Walter Lee's got 79 potential. Nelson Hong has the exact potential as his overall, so hopefully he outgrows that potential because or else he's going to probably start dropping, my guess. Like we said, Morai is crap. And then Henry Taguchi is a really solid steal. Almost A potential for that late of a selection, too. Like I said, we didn't even scout him out, so that was just a random pick just because he was Asian, and it turned out to be a pretty good one. So that is our year 14 draft. Now the question is, how good was the AI draft? We were really interested in that Bayak guy, that first baseman that went early, so kind of curious on what the White Sox got with that selection. But in terms of other teams, the Mariners had kind of a mid-draft, but still they didn't have a bad draft by any stretch. Like nobody's super bad in third, and Eric Cortez. Texas, pretty similar to us, to be honest. Rick Ricks is not the highest potential, but he can still be useful. So hopefully Rick Ricks develops just like Luis Luis and Lewis Lewis, because this game is turning out to be a giant meme at this point. Jose Magana, who went first overall, is pretty good. Good player there for the Braves. Samuel Goodman's okay. Jorge Peralta, not bad. Not too bad at all either. Good potential with him. The Marlins, Bobby Carpenter's okay. Ian Torres is okay. Alois Slinger might be okay. The Mets, Brandon Delgado is really solid. 66 at 21, 89 potential. And then they also had a late steal with Nick Moore. 42 at 19, which is a little bit low, but 87 potential is good. The Phillies, they didn't have a slam dunk of a pick at their first selection, which kind of sucks because they're not doing too well in the series, so they definitely could have used the help. Washington, Johnny Gonzalez is pretty solid. Leo Mateo is pretty good as well, actually really good. Ned Kramer, not a bad starting overall. All right. The Cubs, Johnny Martinez is not terrible, but he's not the greatest. They had some really good late steals, it looks like, though, potentially here. Josh Robert, 56 at 22 is kind of low, but 88 potential. Rich Casilla, though, that's a really nice pick. 51 at 18 with 97 potential. So another really good shortstop going late. The Reds with Ken Mendez, that's a pretty bad pick, to be honest. Patrick Rock went unsigned, which kind of sucks for the memes, but he might be in next year's draft class, which is kind of neat. But yeah, the Reds had a rough draft, it looks like. The Brewers, Brent McClellan, pretty good. 71 at 18, 84 potentials, respectable too. Joel Polito is also not bad. Similar overall, actually same overall, similar potentials. So those are actually decent pickups for the Brewers, I would say at that. All right. The Pirates, Ray Clark at the second overall pick. Or was it second or third? I think it was second. Not very good. 70 is a good starting point, but 83 potential. Like, he's going to be useful, but he's not what you would want at that point, my guess. Garrett O'Malley, though, is a very good closer to like pick up after that, so nice little pickup for them. The Cardinals, pretty average draft, I would say. Nothing crazy. Diamondbacks with Meadows, that's not bad. 60 at 18, 85 potential. Ooh, a 76 overall with 75 potential. Pablo Rosa is not bad. Like, that's a really good starting point for an overall, but he doesn't have high potential, so. But Richard Coles, that's a nice steal. A little bit low overall for a 21-year-old, to be honest, but 98 potential as a catcher. There was actually some pretty good late-round selections in this year's draft, it seems like. Chris Wolf for the Rockies is not too bad either. Good potential, good overall for an 18-year-old. And Montenegro's not bad. Gonzalez, they actually had two Gonzalez's. All right. Luis Albrecht, that's actually a fantastic steal. That might be one of the best steals I've seen. 68 at 19 as a catcher is great. And then he's also 98 potential. So the Rockies just found themselves their catcher of the future. And that was all the way in like round 4, I guess. Because they must have had a competitive round balance pick as well. So that's a huge pickup for them. So shout out to the Rockies for making a great late round selection. Ricky Paulson, pretty good pickup for the Dodgers at the last pick of the first round. The Padres, Juan Germain's not too bad. Solid overall, but already 22. Adolfo Nieve, he's okay. Giants, Chuck Cobain is good. Chuck Cobain's good. 63 at 18, 87 potential. Okay. The Orioles. Okay draft for them. Some solid starting overalls. And then Eric Fader. Not bad. 59 and 21 is kind of low, but 98 potential. Yeah, there was definitely some good late round picks in this draft class. Boston had probably one of the worst drafts I've seen so far out of this year. Mike Lolick is a good starting overall, though. 75 at 21 with 77 potential. What else we got here? Yankees. John Corley is not very good, so pretty bad pick there for them. Jose Dorta is okay. But yeah, they didn't have that great of a draft either, looks like. Tampa. Michael Bernstein. Not very good. Solid starting overall, though. He's going to be useful. Frank Lloyd is pretty good. 58 at 19 with 89 potential. And what do you know? Another late round steal, Eddie Pineda. 55 at 18 with 92 potential. So there was a lot of late round 8 potential guys. Toronto, James Stark, who they might have had the worst draft. James Stark is okay starting overall, but no potential. Same goes with Gene. How do you even pronounce that last name? Szymborski? Yeah, it might be like Szymborski. He's not very good in terms of potential, but he's got a great starting point. And then you also have Diego Rivera, who's not bad. But yeah, they probably had one of the worst drafts in a sense. Some okay starting overalls, but potential, no. And there is Theodore Bayek, who we were interested in. The White Sox took him at 6th overall. He's got a good starting overall. Doesn't have a super high potential, but that contact hitting versus lefties is fantastic. Also, the power hitting is good. And he's got decent vision and discipline. Like, he's going to be a good, useful first baseman for sure in terms of being able to hit the ball. So that's a really nice pickup for the White Sox, I would say. Not the highest potential, like I said, but he's going to be useful for sure. Forrest Stevenson as a catcher is pretty good. Really good potential. The Guardians, some okay picks. But yeah, in general, I would say some teams had some pretty bad drafts. Others got some really good late round steals. Tigers, all right, that first round pick really sucks in terms of potential. Henry Sandovaldo's at least an okay pickup afterwards. Kansas City, Ian Dixon is pretty good. 58 at 18, 89 potential. Cy Jenkins isn't terrible. Kurt Sketum, I think that's pronounced, is kind of a low overall for a 22-year-old. And Derek Sanderson, not the former NHLer, different spelling. 55 at 21, 78 potential. Minnesota actually maybe had one of the better drafts. 75 at 21 for Tony James with 82 potential. Luis Saul, 70 at 21 with 93 potential. That's really good. Peter Holtz, okay. Garrett Prater, is a very low overall for a 19-year-old, but he's got the potential to become a number 1 catcher. So that's good. And then Houston, who we obviously don't want to see them having a good draft. Our first round selection was okay. Second round was okay. Like, these guys have some potential, but they're low overalls to start, so they won't be any guys that are useful to start or for the rest of the series probably. The Angels, Elmo Graves is pretty good. 70 at 21, 84 potential. Garrett Hoffman's not too bad either. 60 at 18, 85 potential. Bud Shelley, what a name. It's okay. And Elvis Pineda is a good starting overall, but he's literally the same potential at 18. And then there's our draft. I would say, to be honest, we kind of had one of the better drafts in a way, just because we had a good late round steal with Taguchi, but I'd say I'm very impressed with the draft, especially getting a guy that's this high of an overall like Nelson Hong. That's very useful. Luther Chang is not that bad of an overall. Like, I'd say I'm pretty happy with most players in this draft other than Alan Morai. So that's pretty nice. All right, final few things we got to do to wrap up this episode, because it is kind of running a little bit long, is taking a look at our player stats so far for the season. Obviously, next episode will simulate the rest of the regular season, but so far, Parker Iwamura might be up there for a potential Cy Young, depending if that other guy that was the starting pitcher in the All-Star game is doing better or not. But Parker is 16-4. He's got a below 3 ERA and a 1.15 WHIP. He's been great. Stan Nguyen's also been great. He's got a below 1 WHIP. Kazuhito Hayashi's also been solid, losing a lot more games this year than prior years, but that's okay. Vincent Tan's actually improving, I think, from last year. And then Kenny Rabu as well has been solid. In terms of the bullpen, Walter Jung, Leonard Sato's been good. Vincent Chang's kind of mixed, but he is very young. He's 87 already. God damn. This guy's going to be expensive down the road, too. Eric Yamamoto's been Philip Chung's been solid. Eric Yamashita's been good. Really good, actually, through 6.2 innings. Tommy Wong's been not too bad. And Tom Koo as a closer is doing what Tom Koo needs to do. So, really good stats from our pitchers, I would say, for the most part. Batting-wise, Yamazaki on a 298. He's up to 26 home runs, 81 RBIs. He's having a fantastic season. Yokoyama on a 283. He's been also really good. Tom Lee on a 239 is not ideal, considering last year he had a 279, but he is still doing good in terms of other stats. Charles Nomo is almost at 30 home runs. Like, he could potentially have the most home runs in the league this season. He's got 79 RBIs. He's batting at 309. Nomo is finally having that year. I'm glad we have him locked up, too. But going from a 232 to a 309 is insane. Way more home runs. He's about to break his RBIs from last year already. And he's almost got a 1 OPS, too. So, between him and Yamazaki, those two guys have been absolutely awesome. Love to see it. Theodore Lee doesn't have a great average, but he's got some RBIs. He's got some home runs. Sasaki, not the greatest RBIs, or not RBIs, I mean average as well. Good RBIs, good home run count at 20 home runs. So we have 3 guys on 20 home runs already, I think. Vincent Seo on 16 home runs. He's got a good average, 269. Stanley Oka has been improving, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Richard Shen's probably been one of the weak links of the team so far. But Nomo is technically the DH, so he's not even playing third base right now. We could move him over to third base if we want to and put somebody else in instead. Left-handed pitcher stuff obviously doesn't matter, so let's take a look at the bench. Michael Wong's batting at 250 off the bench. That's not too bad. Choi on a 252. Chung on a 314. He's been good. So what we could do is we could always move Nomo into third base, take Richard Shen out, and then Chung would probably be the DH instead. I honestly don't know, but Nomo's killing it as a DH this year, so maybe not. And then Mark Taguchi's batting a 462 through 26 at-bats. We put him into the lineup as a full-time guy. He's actually doing really, really well this year off the bench. Yeah, he's doing great. I don't know if he's going to be a full-time guy. I mean, we could take Oka out, who's a little cold as of late, and then just make Taguchi the full-time guy if we really want. So there's that. Also do want to take a look at award leaders at the moment, see if we got anybody that could potentially win an award this season. So right now for the MVP, Dylan Cruz is leading for the Blue Jays. However, Charles Nomo and Peter Yamazaki are both also up there. So we could have back-to-back years with an MVP on this roster if Dylan Cruz falls off in the second half. But right now, Nomo has been great. He has one more home run, doesn't have the average, so that's probably why Dylan Cruz is number 1. That's my guess, but still, To have 2 guys up there for MVP is great. Cy Young so far, Parker is currently number 1 for the Cy Young. So Parker might win his 2nd Cy Young in the last 3 seasons, which is pretty damn fantastic. Aside from that, Tom Koo's up there for potentially his first Reliever of the Year award, which is also great. Nomo's up there for the Hank Aaron potentially. Wow, okay. Didn't expect that. And for Gold Glove, we might have some guys up there. And same with probably Silver Sluggers, I would assume. Let's see. Yeah, Silver Sluggers like Nomo might win one. Yamazaki might win one. This has been a great year. Really great year, I would say. But obviously, it depends on what we could do in the playoffs as well. I do want to take a look currently. Team rankings. Win percentage, we are currently the number 1 team in baseball again. Guardians are number 2. Astros number 3. Rockies 4. And Yankees 5. All right. I do want to take a look at stuff like batting average, though. Where are we in terms of that? 9th. It's not terrible. What about home runs? 4th. All right. RBIs, we are 10th. What about batting or pitching related stats? ERA, we are number 2, only behind the Boston Red Sox. Complete games tied for 1st. Shutouts, we are just behind the Yankees. Saves, we are tied for 1st as well. All right. So there's a lot of good stats to go off of based on that. And what I also want to take a look at here is league leaders. So yeah, Irizarry. I want to see if we actually have the best home run guys in the league right now. Almost. Yeah, Nomo is number 1 in home runs, but Dylan Cruz has that average. Yamazaki's number 3. tied with Steve Cortez. I'm really liking the power game from these 2 guys. Really nice to see. In terms of the pitching related stats, yeah, Iwer is going to be up there for most of these scenes, I think, which is awesome. Will be nice to see if Iwer wins his 2nd Cy Young of his career, because that would be awesome. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Tokyo Tropic Turtles Draft to Glory franchise mode. So in next episode, we will simulate the rest of the year 14 regular season. Obviously, we should be a playoff team at this rate, which is great. But obviously, I'm hoping for a longer playoff run this season than we did last season, because obviously we're still trying to find ourselves in the postseason. But I think this could be a year where our team finally starts to string it together. So anything down below, and I'll see you guys next time.